Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. I am Nikhil Kumar. Today we are diving into one of the most essential concepts in the Kubernetes, that is labels and the selectors. You have seen me using labels briefly in our previous videos like when creating a pods, deployment, replica sets or even in the services. But today we will deep dive and see how to fully leverage them. What are labels? Labels are simple key value pairs that you attach to objects like pod, nodes, or even services. They help you organize filters and select resources. In this particular example, we can see we are applying labels, that is app is equal to frontend, environment is equal to dev, and tier equal to backend. You have already saw me using these in my earlier videos where replica set matching pod using labels, deployments which manage replica sets while label selectors, and services that route traffic based on pod labels. Now let's understand what are selectors as well. Selectors allow Kubernetes component to match those labels. They are used by deployment to target pods, services to select backend pods, node affinity for scheduling, even kubectl get commands to filter out the resources. Now let's see them in the action via practical demo. This is our Kubernetes cluster. Here I am going to create a pod with a specific labels, and later on we will use the labels to filter out the pods. So I'm going to create a pod that is label-pod.yml, and here I'm going to specify the pod definition file, that is API version, kind, and the metadata. Under the metadata section, we are going to specify the name, that is frontend. And under the metadata only, we can specify the labels. So for that, we have a keyword called labels. And here I'm going to specify two labels for this particular pod, that is app is equal to frontend and environment is equal to dev. And specifying the specification, containers, name is equal to nginx, and image is also equal to nginx. So let me create a pod, kubectl apply -f label pod.yml. We can use a kubectl apply command to create resources. So pod got created. Let's verify that. Kubectl get pods. We can see the pod frontend is running. Now, if we want to see the labels of this particular pod, we can use a command kubectl get pods -show -labels. Oh, there is a typo. Labels. We can see the labels, that is app is equal to frontend and environment is equal to dev. Now, if we want to see the pod which is having a label called environment is equal to dev, so we can use a command kubectl get pods -l, that is label is equal to environment is equal to dev. It will list the pod which is having a label, that is environment is equal to dev. So using this, we can filter out the pod with the help of kubectl command. Now let's create a service that uses a label selector. So right now we have used a label which is applicable to this particular pod, but here we are going to create a service selecting a label and routing a traffic according to that. So for that, let me create a service -selector.yml, API version v1, kind is equal to service, and metadata. And here I'm going to specify the name, that is frontend service, and specifications. So here, first of all, we need to specify the selector. So here I'm going to specify the label which I gave to the pod, that is app is equal to frontend. And then we need to specify the ports, port equal to 80, and the target port is equal to 80 as well, and protocol is equal to TCP. If you want to understand service in detail, I have a dedicated video on the service in which I have covered the cluster IP and the node port service both. I will add a link in the description. So basically this service will route traffic to any pod which is having a label that is app is equal to front end. Now let's apply this. kubectl apply -f svc selector. There is some issue with that. Let me see. Oh, there is a typo here. Let me update this. Target. Let me apply. The service got created. kubectl get service. We can see the front end service is running. And if we describe this, kubectl describe service, we can see it is having a cluster IP and it is internally routing it to some endpoint that is 10.42.0.35. Let's describe the pod as well. The pod which we have created is front end. There's a typo here. Describe pod, and if we scroll up, we can see this is the same IP address, that is 35, which is showing here as well. So it automatically picks up the pod which is having a label that is app is equal to front end. Now if we want to see the access to it, so we can access it using this, and we can see our application is accessible via this particular cluster IP. We can also use match label and match expression in the deployment or replica set, or even use it with the kubectl commands. Label and selectors are like the backbone of the Kubernetes. We can use them wisely and our cluster will be easier to manage. That's all for today. If you like this video, share it to your friends and don't forget to subscribe for more content like this. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.